Hey, you're listening to the Burnt Out Entrepreneur podcast, where you'll learn why you're feeling so burnt out, some insights and hacks to get you along this entrepreneurial journey. I'm Kylie Yota, former oil and gas manager turned health coach, life coach, and business mentor for female entrepreneurs just like you, and help them heal and recover from burnout. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Burnt Out Entrepreneur. I'm here today with my friend Lindsey, and when we were on the team together, I was a project manager. She was the Keep expert, and she would build the funnel. She would do the automations and sending out those text messages, those autoresponder things. She is the bee's knees when it comes to that. And just working with her and just having her work ethic. And we're going to talk about that too, because sometimes too much work ethic leads to burnout. Welcome, Lindsey, to the platform. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm super excited. I've been looking forward to this since we got it scheduled. So excited.
Yeah. And so just a little bit more about you and your journey in entrepreneurship, right? Because when we met, you were doing all the things, right? Executive assistant, building funnels, all the tech pieces, and you were doing kind of everything under the sun. Whatever your clients needed, you were that person. Because I remember when we first met, I was in Amy's mastermind and oh, everyone was like, can I get a Lindsey? I want a Lindsey. It was wow. Yeah. And because they saw what you were doing, for her behind the scenes, and that's just the kind of service you provide. But there was a change that had to happen. So what was it like for you, when you started your business, and how it kind of evolved over the years to doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, I feel like the way that it started was, it started with death by cubicle, right? I had to get out. I had to get out of the cubicle. I was dying a slow death. And so basically from there, I found virtual assisting. I took a course. I went through that course to learn how to build a summit, funnel essentially, which actually was super fun for me. I didn't realize how much I would like it, because it's essentially building a couple little web pages and things like that.
Well,
and
shout out, now you're in your own summits.
But yeah, so I learned all of that, and then just steadily started taking on clients, supporting people. And you mentioned Amy. I found her really early on in my career. I was very blessed for that to have happened. And you're right, I did all the things. I'm fairly certain if you go to her website and look up the team section, my title still says she does all the things. Title on her team. But I think that was very reminiscent of how my life has been. My entire work life, my whole life, I've always kind of been that jack of all trades type person. I love learning new things, figuring things out, stuff like that. So it just, and I'm, like you said, the work ethic and everything, I was, raised in between that whole Gen X millennial window. I veer very Gen X, very self-sufficient. Let me just get in there, keep my head down, get it done. And so it really worked for me. It worked for me a lot. So, I've been really enjoying it. But I have recently, I've niched to the tech and automations as my specialty.
Right. A lot of times when you outsource something to an assistant, you're like, oh yeah, put these emails into this funnel. You don't understand all of the tech, all of the moving pieces that happen behind the scenes. I feel like a lot of people leave out is that tech piece, understanding the tech. When you want something to do something, right? It's a lot of programming to do, and the coding happens behind the scenes, right?
Yeah, basically using a drag and drop builder and things like that.
Right.
That's kind of built in for you. Yeah.
Right. It's built in. But you still have to understand what the client wants. Okay, if I want these series of 7 emails to go out and I want them to drip out at this blah, blah, blah interval. And when you have multiple clients, you have to learn how to do the same thing that you already know how to do in one software. Then you have to go into another software, figure out their terminology, figure out like it's a whole thing, like learning it's like learning a whole new language when you're going from one platform to another platform. Next, when from the other side of the coin, right? We talked to Amy and how she manages her teams and right, and making sure that everyone is taken care of. And like I've had clients where like you feel part of the family and you feel very taken care of, and then you have other clients who kind of they don't understand that you have a life, that you have a family.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so you mentioned Amy, and I know you and I have talked about this separately, but her team is very much like a family, but not in that like
Toxic
toxic
family.
way that people talk about it when they're just trying to get you to show up without giving you anything in return. She genuinely cares about her team and their well-being and their bandwidth. Like she never asks us to do something, especially a last minute thing, without saying, is this possible? Do you have the bandwidth? Things like that.
Right.
And so I do think that there's a certain type of leadership when it comes to coaches and entrepreneurs, people who are hiring support members.
Yeah.
You need a level of leadership to where you can actually lead your team, share the vision, help them understand where you want to go and how they can help you get there without being like a dictator basically, or without being somebody who doesn't view the relationship as like an employee-employer relationship. Because I feel like just going into an interview with somebody, you automatically feel like, oh, well, I'm going to hire this person. I'm paying them. They work for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we don't necessarily work for you. We work with you on
Yes.
your team to support you and your vision. So we want to be a part of that vision, right? Like
Yeah.
support personalities, like we want to know what lights you up so that, you know what I mean? Like share the vision with us because that's going
Right.
to, encourage us to show up and give you our best every single day. But
Yeah.
if there's like, you know, expectations out of control, that we don't understand what's happening. Like we're not mind readers, right? We want to do the things that you need, but like if there's communication breakdowns or you have expectations that we don't know about or whatever the case may be, like it's very hard for us to live up to that. And then we go into self beat up and we go into burnout and we do all of those sorts of things
Yeah.
trying to like climb back into your good graces, if as it were. So
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And like there was a team that I was on like way back when I first started, and man, like the attrition rate on that team, like the turnover rate was very high, and it was because there was a toxic work culture. It was like, okay, what are you, like it was an input output kind of relationship. Although there was a certain like I'm just gonna say lip service for being real about like, oh, we're a family and all of that, right? You like you said, communication with your team is very important.
yeah.
When we were on team together, I would always ask, okay, well, what do you have going on? Like that was the first question. Like anytime we're jumping into a launch, it's like, okay, we want to push it out on this date. And like, my whole Asana thing, right? It is all
Yep.
like reverse engineered.
Oh
And
yeah.
okay, if we're on this date, then we have to start on this date. Copy needed on this date. And then like you as a tech person building the funnel, like we were like the cabooses, right?
Right. Right.
We were the tail that, like we had to wait for the dog to wag, and then we were the tail that would come in at the end.
Yeah.
But, like making sure that everyone on the team had what they needed in a timely manner so that, right, because there is a back and forth that happens. And when everyone's living in different time zones, different parts of the world, like there's a lot. It's not like when you're doing it yourself, where you're like,
Mm.
oh, I write the copy. Like I've done that on my own business. Like, oh, I want to send out an email today. Let me just send. It's
Yeah.
so easy, but when you're managing a team, especially a larger team, a lot of moving parts, a lot of different people and communications and like different people doing different things, right? It's all happening asynchronously, and communication is key when you're in those kinds of environments, and like expectations as well.
Yeah.
And what are
Yeah.
the expectations?
Yeah. And not creating a culture of someone being afraid to ask questions.
Yes.
I mean
Yes.
that I've experienced that. It's been a big thing. I've been on a couple of teams like that where, you know, even if things started out great and communication was great, a shift happens at some point, whatever it is, right? And
Right.
then all of a sudden you're afraid to ask any questions when things are getting loaded on you for fear of, being a disappointment or, not being a professional or not knowing. And it's all these stories we tell ourselves, right? Because none of that's true. It's
Yeah.
just that we're building up this level of anxiety that we're holding on to because we don't feel safe enough to have
Yeah.
that conversation. You know what I mean?
Oh
Um,
yeah, totally.
and
Yeah.
that's a big thing. And like you were mentioning, getting to know what people have going on. Like, yes, get to know what your people have going on so that you don't overload them with stuff and they're not going to be available or they're going to be out of the office or whatever. But just get to know them like on a personal level. And you and I were talking earlier, and I said, one thing that I look for when I get on a call with a potential client is like, I want to know who they are. Like, not just who they are, like what their name is and things like I want to know who you are as a person. Like, am I going to want to talk to you every single day? Do our values and our ideals align? Do I support the kind of business that you run it like personally, not technically,
Right.
before I agree to sign on, because then I'm going to show up to be my best self and I'm going to show up to support you at my highest capacity, you know, like I want to do. It's not going to be like a begrudging thing. I'm going to want to be
Right.
there with you, like shoulder to shoulder. Let's go. Let's grow this business, right? Like
Yes.
we want to be part of the journey too.
Yeah.
We can't do that if we are afraid to talk to you or whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that breakdown in communication is so important. Like I was talking to my assistant, and there was a communication breakdown with one of her former clients as well. Sh and she was like, "Yeah, I really don't know what happened." And come to find out, um, there was a certain expectation that the client had, and it was not verbalized to, you know, the assistant.
Yeah.
And then right then there's this tension that builds up, and you can't say what you want to say, and like you said, right there, I feel like we need to draw like a wheel or like that recycle arrow thing, because it's like communication, like communicating your expectations, and then just kind of having this communication cycle happening. Because yes, like when you first bring someone on, like I've always preached hire before you're ready, because you need that feeling out period. And you can start giving your tasks out slowly. Because, right, I'm sure people have hired you when like their stuff was hitting the fan, and they're like, okay, Lindsay, you need to put out all these fires because that's why I hired you. And it's like, no, like I can put out one fire at a time. Like it's not a firefighting team. It's one firefighter. And even then, like why do I have to fight fires? Like let's get this business to a point where it runs like clockwork, and that's why setting up tech and automations is so important. So important. Clockwork, man.
No, it really is. I mean, yeah, no, you just hit the nail on the head. And my dogs are going nuts. So this is my real life. And I'm sorry if you
Yeah.
can hear all that in the background.
No, yeah.
One second.
Yeah. That's the thing, right? When we have real life going on, and that's why I made it a point to make sure I connect with, my team, or even if I'm managing other people's teams, like what's happening in your real life?
Yeah.
Like, do you have a migraine today? Or for all the ladies out here, are you on your period this week? Like, that, the output is going to be lower. It's just natural.
Yeah.
It's natural because we are women, we have cycles,
Mhm.
and there's a book on cycles that talk about, okay, you are more social in this part of your period, you are more tired in this part of your period. And it was for that team we were on together. I started figuring out who was on cycle when, based on how they were showing up to the meeting.
Stop it.
Yes.
You brought like I can't fix my face. Like my face will tell you the truth. You probably knew every time I tried.
Well, not only that, but just if people were more social at the time, or if people were more in that like you know,
Right.
like getting it done, because we do have like our hormones will put us in these different zones, so to speak. It's like, okay, we're more sociable today. Oh, like we're more like a hit it and quit it today. Again, I was like, oh, okay. But then it would just make me a better project manager. And that's why I read about all of those things, because anything that affects productivity, right? Your cycle affects your productivity. And even like the archetypes, they affect your productivity, and like how the archetypes interact with each other, right? So Lindsay, you said you're a supporter. So on my, where does that would line up to a, uh, oh yeah, the perfectionist archetype. But that's what makes you so good at all the funnels and tech, because it does take a perfectionist archetype to look at everything and every nook and cranny, test things, like make sure the links are clickable, make sure the tags are tagged correctly, because you don't want to be putting someone or segmenting a subscriber into the wrong segment and they get the wrong email. I mean, like stuff happens.
Oh yeah. And
Stuff
it is, I mean,
happens.
it's a special kind of brain that has to go into all of that, because there are all of those different archetypes where there's we since you brought up Amy, like we'll just keep going back to her, but like she's a promoter, right? So she's like, I want to do this, and then we just figure it out. We're like, she just wants to do this, and she wants to go and promote it, and she's amazing at it, right? And she's so good.
Yes.
And then she's like,
Yes.
I don't understand any of that back there. So I'll just let you guys take care of it. and,
Right.
so,
And
and yeah,
like, but
it's
that's
great.
the dream, right? Having someone who trusts their team enough
Yes.
to allow that to happen behind the scenes, you
Yeah.
know, like not micromanaging, and because that's where the magic happens, right? When I'm talking about burnout, I've talked about it before. It's when I was working with my clients behind the scenes, it was like, okay, anything that doesn't have to do with your face needs to be outsourced or automated.
Yep. Absolutely.
And like, what makes you show up as your best self is not having to worry about all of that headache. You're delivering your product, your service, whatever,
Mm.
and let someone else deal with it.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
you don't want to
Absolutely.
outsource your tech, or you feel like you can't afford outsourcing your tech right now, I mean, you can outsource your personal life too. Like hire a cleaner or hire your children. Because I
Mhm.
mean, I'm not I'm not a financial expert, disclaimer, but there are a lot of financial experts out there that talk about hiring your family, because your kids are going to do chores anyway, but
Mhm.
it can be to your tax advantage to hire your family. And then you can, like, there's so many. Like I said, I'm not a financial expert, but outsource the things that you don't need to do. And although, like, perfectionist, like that is kind of the one of the hardest archetypes to get to agree to outsourcing, because
Absolutely. Listen, it's so like it's such a catch 22 for me, because I can preach all day long to people to outsource and trust their team and let their team do what they do, and then I sit back and try to think about what I could outsource, and I'm like, Uh,
None.
I, I got nothing. I don't know what to do. I can't do it. It's 100% true. And it's to my detriment. I do know that. I'm self-aware. So, and I feel like that's at least the first step to recovery. I will
It is though.
find somebody that I can, and it's not even finding somebody. I know I can find somebody.
Right.
It's knowing, it's just letting, I don't even know what it is. Is it letting go? Is it knowing what to let go of? I don't know yet.
Yeah. No, but that's you make an excellent point. That's why I talk about the archetypes because, right, your personality type, right? Amy's like, yay, promoter. Popular archetype for me, but
Yeah.
she's like, I don't care how it happens, just make it happen.
Yeah. But to go
Yeah.
back to that really quickly though, when I first started with her, it was about 5 years ago. I had to, she still was very much like, this is her baby. She doesn't want to let it go. Like she's been doing all the things, right? And so every day I would kind of go to her and be like, is there anything else that I can take off of your plate today? Like, so I had to
Yeah.
kind of like nudge her in that direction. And
Yes.
now like it's just grown to where there's so much she knows like there's no way for her to have her hands in everything even if she wanted to. That's why
Yeah.
she's gotten so good at letting go.
Yeah. But
Her
it
team thanks her for it.
yeah, and it is it's another cycle again. And Franklin Covey has this training called or book also called The Speed of Trust. Right? That expectation and communication is key, and that speed of trust, like trusting. And that's how it is, right? You give a little, take a little, give a little, take a little until that trust is built up. And I know for a lot of people listening who are on the cusp of like, I don't know if I can let go. It's it's like I said, hire before you're ready so that you can start building trust. You can let go of things that don't matter. Like if it breaks, it breaks. Like you don't want to be hiring someone in the middle of a launch when you're like, oh my God, like if this breaks, we're toast. No, like you start, okay, send out this newsletter. Fine, like set it up, whatever, make sure it works. And like the 80/20 rule, I am a little bit of a perfectionist too. Some of the things that I outsource to my assistant, I'll be honest, I'm like, "N- not 100 for me, but it's doable. Like, get over yourself. Like, it's doesn't have to be perfect. Like, it's an email. How many people are going to read it? How many people are going to click? As long as the links work and it gets to where they're supposed to be, or there's even times where like, oh, we don't even have a link. Here, just send them this other link. It'll get them to where they need to go.
Yeah.
Eventually,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and you get to look at it as like, we've had things happen like that before. And, you could be over here freaking out and people are responding in like, oh, I'm so glad to know you're human too. Like, because then you're relatable, right? Everybody makes
Yes.
mistakes. It's not the end of the world.
Yes.
I had you and I worked on that team with another contractor, and she would always come to me like freaking out about stuff. And I was always just so calm. And I'm like, it's okay, let's do this. And she'd be like, how are you always so calm? And I was like, nobody's gonna die. Like
Right.
a broken link, we'll fix it. Nobody's gonna, it's fine.
Right. And like, no, there's no such thing as a marketing emergency. No.
Nope, not at all.
Yeah. But once you get to that place of understanding that, there's no such thing as a marketing emergency, it takes the pressure off. It takes the pressure off of you, it takes the pressure off your team. And, when we are not burnt out, when we're not under stress, that's when we can flourish. You know, the team can flourish. And when the team flourishes, that's when your business will flourish, right? Like the more, we'll just use Amy again as an example. Love you, Amy. Thank you. But right when the more she was able to let go, that's when her business started to scale. And that's when she started to grow because she was able to stay consistently in her zone of genius, let you guys do all the work, build the trust with the team over time. And
Yeah,
yeah,
don't work for you, we work with you. Yeah.
yeah. And that's the bottom line. And but I know like going back to Amy and all of us on the mastermind, we're like, oh, I want a Lindsay. Can I get a Lindsay? When you were at capacity and you were working with all of these people, and what made you eventually to pivot into what you're doing today?
Yeah. Um, well, I mean, it's it's a little of everything, right? So as a perfectionist and as a recovering people pleaser and a support personality, I want to help everybody. I want to help all the people, and everybody's like, who's your ideal client, or who's your avatar or whatever. I'm like, all of them, just everyone.
Anyone who needs help.
Everyone needs a funnel, but anyway.
Yes.
And obviously you can't. What are you going to do? You can't do that.
Right.
So at the time, yes, I was like, I was at capacity, but I wasn't to the point where I was burnt out yet. I wasn't to the point where I had like overdone it, right? But I had been just, how do I scale this? How do I support more people? There are only so many hours in a day. It's just me, right?
Only so many Lindsays to go around.
Only so many, like I haven't mastered cloning myself yet. It's just what are you gonna do, right? And this isn't the type of, like, what I personally do for a living isn't the type of thing that you can just easily be like, oh, I'm just gonna scale it. Like it's not the same. It's not like
it's a very specialized skill.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, that's been kind of like in the back of my mind for a long time. And so, the years go on and I keep doing the things, and and then you and I kind of touched on this before, that I have a chapter in a book coming out that I wrote about what I've been going through the last couple of years. Where I was comfortable, and I knew, like, I think that's why I wasn't really pushing myself as hard as I could to really grow my business. Like every time I would have like a spark and think, oh, this might be a really good idea, I wouldn't really put myself out there or try too hard, because I had the safety net of a second income. Yeah. And even though the marriage was not a good one, even though there was a lot of trauma attached to all of that, that safety net and that comfortability of that second income was there. So I would kind of let myself off the hook. You know what I mean?
Right. Been there.
So for the last year and a half, I have finally been on my own, which has been fabulous and incredible on so many levels. But also a little scary, because now I have to fully rely on myself and on this business, and I have to go out there and prove to myself, like, no, you can not only make enough money to cover your bills, you can scale this thing, you can support all the people you want to support, and you can, actually build the life for your children that you've wanted to build.
Yes.
And so that led into, well, I'm already doing all these scary things like getting divorced and, moving out on my own for the first time, because I did get married at 19. So I've never lived on my own as an adult before. So this is fun. Almost 40. So I joined a mastermind. I was like, let's get the support. Let's start there. I joined a mastermind. And then I started taking on clients, a different set of clients, right? So I've got, obviously still have Amy, I love her. And I will always have Amy.
Yes.
But I was doing project work as well as my regular team work. And there was just this perfect storm of scenarios that happened where all of a sudden I was drowning. Yeah. I went from, oh my gosh, this is amazing, I'm doing it, I'm doing the thing I wanted to do, I've hit the income target I wanted to hit. And then within a split second, it felt like I was like, I can't sustain this. I'm dying. I'm letting people down. I'm making stupid mistakes, like things that they weren't like me, but my anxiety level was at an all-time high. I wasn't sleeping, just all of the things, right?
Yeah.
The epitome of
Yeah.
burnout.
Yeah.
And it was really, really humbling, really humbling. So I stayed as positive as I could. I took the time I needed to take to enjoy the fact, even though I had lost a significant amount of income for it's a short period of time. It was a short thing. And I took the opportunity to really take a step back. Number one, enjoy the breath of fresh air that I was getting from not being buried under work.
Yeah.
But number two, like really evaluate what I want this business to look like. This isn't just about how much money can I make, or, how big of teams can I support, or whatever. This is, what do I want this business and my life to look like? Because I'm working to support my life. I'm not living to work. I'm not doing that.
Yes.
So my newest idea came to me, and I actually got so excited about that I brought it to life. And now it is out there, and I'm able to support more people, and it's still just me. I didn't
I
float myself
love
to
that.
make it happen. Yeah.
Because that's a shift that we need to make when we're struggling, drowning, burnt out, however you describe it. Right, there has to be some kind of thing. And then there are two kinds of people when it comes to burnout. I feel that when you're drowning and you're in burnout, like, do you implode or do you explode? Like, do you just like, okay, how do I come out and just bang out this thing? Like, how do I get over it? How do I find a solution that doesn't have me feeling this way? And does it take a pivot sometimes? Does it take a like a shedding sometimes? But it will morph. And that's what happens. And in any kind of business when you're scaling, growing, whatever, growth pains. I mean, it's human nature as well. When we're growing, like we experience pain in our bones
Yeah.
because like we're literally coming apart at the seams. And when you experience your growth, I mean, your thing is so genius.
Yeah. So it is called Tech Accessible. So it was a fun little name I came up with within my mastermind. And essentially what it is, just in a nutshell, is like pocket tech support, right? And what it does is it supports those entrepreneurs who are scaling. They're growing their businesses, but they're not quite ready to bring on a full-time team member dedicated to their tech stack. And
Yeah.
for those of you listening that aren't entrepreneurs, tech stack is basically all the systems that you use in your business for your automations to deliver your product. So what it really does is it bridges the gap between DIY tech, doing all of the things yourself or trying to figure it out with a VA or whatever, and bringing on that full-time person. This is basically taking my brain, my 5.5, 6 years experience in these systems, and having it in your pocket. So we have a group, and I provide Loom walkthroughs of things that you don't want to take the time to go and research on your own and figure out how to do because you just want to stay in your zone of genius. So basically it's a group support thing, and so the other members contribute, and if they can answer your question, if they're faster than me or happen to be online at that time, but otherwise, anyway, I will share Loom videos, walkthroughs. I can even take time to pop into your personal systems and show you how to do a certain thing if it's complicated, that sort of thing. But yeah, so what's really cool about it too is I've invited the teams. So if it is you, like say, for example, it's you and you want your VA to be in that group with us, that way you don't have to be the go-between person. If your VA is going to be the one doing the implementing, yeah, then they can be in there for sure, because it's like the telephone game. You don't need to be explaining something that you don't understand to somebody else, right?
Yes.
Let them come. So
Yeah.
that's the fun part too. And I
Yeah.
love that. And yeah, so anyway, there's a private version. If you don't want to be in the group, then you can have me one-on-one. It's in a Voxer channel. So there's, walkie-talkie and typing and sharing videos and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm super, super excited to be able to
Yeah.
support new people with it.
I was thinking for the non-entrepreneurs, it's like having Geek Squad in your pocket
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
entrepreneurs. Yeah.
What did you just call me? I'm kidding.
Yeah. Right? And how many times would you love to have someone just help you figure out the stuff?
Yeah. Well, and it's,
Just like,
I think about
yeah,
it like, yeah, we all have, a computer at our fingertips of our cell phones, right? We all have Google. But how many times have you like just tried to look up something simple and it takes you down a rabbit hole of 8,000 Google search pages and you're like, I just want to know how to do the thing.
yeah,
Or you need to know if your email system talks to the, web page builder that you're using or whatever it is, or if
right.
you need to use something like Zapier to connect the two, or if you want to do something very specific in Zapier and have all of these different like parameters around, like there are specialized circumstances, you know what I mean, that you might not necessarily just be able to go to Google for.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
and yes. We'll just use Summit for example. I want to have this summit with these people, and they need contracts, they need Zoom invites, they need email onboarding, make it happen,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you can help talk them through something like that they could do on their own. So, okay, if you want to do this and this and this, and what systems are you on? Okay, and if you need me to write you, if you need me to do any videos to show you how to connect those things, I can totally do that for you.
And I even put that in my on the page itself that explains it more. Is it basically you can use these videos, you keep these videos, you can either keep those just on their own and store those as your SOPs, or you can
Yeah.
use them in conjunction with or use them to write out an SOP. And that's another beautiful thing too, is so many entrepreneurs that are starting. I mean, how often do you hear like you get started, the ball just starts rolling, you're so used to doing all the things, you're not documenting anything,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
You document everything you do. And even if it's just screen recording while you're doing it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like to help when you do hire, you know what I mean?
Because
So
that is the biggest roadblock,
yeah.
right? It's not having SOPs. So like we're like, I can't outsource, I can't. It's because you don't have any SOPs. It's like when you have the videos, when you have the SOPs, it's like you're literally taking your brain, putting it on video or paper into this thing that you can hand off to someone.
Yeah.
And if they have any questions, especially if you're outsourcing overseas where English is not their first language,
Mm-hmm.
videos are super important,
Yeah, absolutely.
because they can follow along, like
Mm-hmm.
as you're clicking here and clicking there. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, but sometimes things get lost in translation when you're just typing any email or
Yeah.
like I mean it, and
Mm-hmm.
I say, okay, if you don't get it from here, like let me know if you need a video, and
Yeah.
we
Well,
have,
and
yeah,
like even if it's not necessarily a language barrier, people just learn differently, right?
yes.
So
Or
I
tech is a
personally,
language, though. Let me
it
say it.
is.
Tech is a
Oh,
language.
100%. But I'm a very visual person.
Yeah.
Uh, so whereas I may not want to, just personally, I may not want to watch a 15-minute long video if you give me a transcript that I can read down through or whatever. You know what I mean? Just I do like reading. I retain that information better.
Yes.
But some people like voice notes better. Some people just want to hear it quick and then they got it and they can run.
Yeah.
Some people like to watch a video. So you have to, I mean, it's nice to, serve all of the ways that people learn.
Yeah.
Because that's the biggest support.
Right. And I love that you understand that about people.
Mm.
That it does. There are different learning styles. Just
Yeah.
like and you understand the archetypes really well as well.
Mm-hmm.
and just understanding how the different types of people work together or what kind of support this type of archetype needs.
Yeah.
Oh, I understand that. Yeah, you are a perfectionist and you do like to micromanage, but how can I manage your micromanaging?
Right.
Like, or stuff like that.
Oh
Or you
yeah.
are a promoter, popular archetype. Oh, okay. It's just like how do I take this dream and make it a reality for you?
Right.
Yeah.
If I'm going to have clients who have no technical proficiency whatsoever, I need to be able to explain things in a way to them that they can take it and run with it.
Yes.
And and that's the best feeling. I actually had that happen in the group last week. So my client sent me a question. She was like, I want to do this, this, and this. What's the easiest way to make that happen? And I was like, well, you could do this or this. And I said, but
Right.
I like number 2 better because I think it'll be easier, faster. And I saw the email go out like, I don't know, half an hour later, and I clicked the links, just got to test it out.
Yes.
And it
Yes.
worked
Testing.
it worked so perfectly. And I was like, I went back into the group and dropped the nailed it gif. But yeah, she was like, oh, sweet. I didn't even test it or anything. And I'm like, oh, girl, you have.
For the love of God. Okay. Right. That perfectionist heart is just like, tick, 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 tick.
Yeah, she just trusts so much. She's like, yeah, that'll work. It's fine. Lindsey
Yeah.
said so.
Yeah. Lindsay said it'll work. Just do it like this. Oh my gosh. Any words of support for someone who is on the cusp of like, I don't know if, you know, outsourcing tech is something that I like maybe they have a trust issue, like I said, speed of trust, right? What words of comfort can you give to someone who is struggling? They're drowning, um, but yet, and they know that outsourcing or just doing some tech or automations is their next step, but they're they're not they're not 100% yet.
Yeah. Listen, with this line of work, it's we have to have a level of trust. We have like you go further, you scale with team. You just do, right?
Yeah.
But team doesn't necessarily have to be full-time, day in, day out. Like it doesn't have to be that. If you need to dip your toe in the water, dip your toe in the water. You
Yeah.
can come to an agreement with a contractor like, hey, let's have a trial period. Can you just help me with this one project that I have coming up or that I've had like on the back burner
Yeah.
because I haven't had time? Like, can you just show me what you can do with this? It gives you a sense of your working relationship together. If that's going to be a fit, if you guys are going to work well with one another, if you like one another, um,
Yes.
it's going to give you a sense of their skills. They're going to get a sense of your business because I mean, like the contractor may not like the business, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
it goes both ways, and that I feel like that's the piece we have to look at. Like you're allowed to test the waters. You're allowed to go out there and find the right fit.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work out with that person, at least you've got data, right? Now you're like, okay, that person didn't work out, but it wasn't because their tech support wasn't good. It just wasn't a fit personality wise, or
Yeah.
they had too much on their plate or whatever, right? But now you have data to work with. The scariness of letting go of control is gone,
Yeah.
right? Or at least hopefully subsiding.
Or it's it's
Gone.
it's waning.
It's
It's
waning.
releasing slowly.
Yes. Exactly. But it is, I think it's just that initial leap. People feel like I'm never going to find, and that's a perfectionist thing. I'm never going to find the perfect person. I'm never going to find, and that's just not true. Like you absolutely will.
Yeah.
Maybe they won't be the very first person you try out. You'll find,
Yeah.
you're going to find, you're going to find quality people who will show up for you if you are just as interested in what they're doing in their business
Yeah.
and what their goals are, right? Like
Right.
go into it like you would go into any relationship, like you want to get to know a person.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, of course their skills matter. Like, yes, they have to be able to do the thing that you want to hire them to do, of course. But that has, for me personally, I feel like that has to be like, yeah, that block is checked. Like, I know how to do all of that. Tell me about you. You're a dog or a cat person. No, you know what I mean?
Right?
Like, I want to know, like, how comfortable can I be myself on your team, or do I have to act like buttoned up and very professional all the time? And like, what is it, right?
Yeah.
Are we going to mesh well, essentially is what it is. Like,
Yeah.
have a stand up post in your Slack in your team Slack every week that's like, what is everybody working on in their business this week? Like, what can we
Yeah.
support you with? Things like
Yeah.
that. It's like it's a
Yes.
relationship,
Yeah.
you know? So sorry, I could go off on a tangent with that all
No.
day.
But like when you're talking about relationship, it's also like a marriage, right? You're not gonna be like, hey, let's get married tomorrow, and like this is gonna be your like end all be all person that you're going on. No, date a little.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not gonna whore around, but you just date a little, you know? Like
That's right.
try
Yeah.
it out. Like, do you like them? Like you said, as a person, do they have the skills that you want? Like, are they tall, dark, handsome? You
Right.
know, like, but in the technical sense, right? Do
Right.
they have what you want?
Yep.
And if they don't have what you want, then it's really okay. And like this, I'm saying this from the other perspective. It's really okay to just say goodbye. And
Yeah.
like, and if you are like, say, like I am the, client hiring a person, like, yeah, it's not going to be like single white female and they're going to be, no, it's gonna be like a mutual relationship that, you guys are both testing each other out. That's the thing, right? It's like you said, it's not an employee-employer relationship, right?
Yeah.
Like, no, you're testing each other out. You guys are trying each other on for size, and if it doesn't work out, it's really okay to say, okay, didn't work out, and it's fine, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be scary. And that's what I want the most from this interview is to understand like what's going on in the minds of our support people so that people don't have to be afraid to outsource. And I know like I've hired people in the past, I've got ghosted, but that it was because the communication blocks and the expectation that was not there. And
Mm.
I had an employee-employer mindset when I went into it, like, oh, you need to do all the things, and because that's what I was taught, and it's taught a lot in this industry. So, but what we saw from Amy's perspective, right, as the, client, and from now Lindsay's perspective, working for the client, that it is a symbiotic flow type of relationship. And it does take two to tango, but
Yeah.
like you said, once you communicate, you set the expectations, you know,
Yeah.
understand that we're all human and that like we're not going to be besties. Like you're not going to be besties with everyone.
Mhm.
And then just keep dating, keep
Yeah.
looking for that person. Like project-based work in the beginning is fabulous.
Right.
Fabulous.
Absolutely. Because I mean, think about it, it's a win-win from both sides. You're getting to test this person's skills out, see if and at the same time, see if you guys mesh well personality wise. And they're getting to build their portfolio like, oh, hey, look, I did this thing for a client that I worked with on one project. It didn't work out. We didn't go further for whatever reason, but it's building their portfolio too. So
Yeah.
it works on a number of levels. And expanding your circle is always good. Meeting new people, getting referrals, all of those sorts of things are wonderful. I had a thought a minute ago when you were talking about Amy. Oh, so she also, another big thing that I feel gets missed sometimes is she also trusts our expertise. And when I say that, I mean, if she asks for us to do something and like she has this grand idea to do
Right.
something, the team can come together and be like, we can come back, put together options, be like, these are the ways it can be done.
Right.
Like A, B, or C, but maybe A is not quite what you want. B is a little closer, but we're still missing that, blah, 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 whatever. We can recommend, we can say, we recommend this one for
Yeah.
these reasons. And she'll be like, well, cool. You're the expert. It's
Yeah.
that level of trust and respect. Like,
Yeah.
not just, well, no, this is the way I want it done, so figure it out.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's what?
No.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. And also on the flip side, when you like you get what you pay for
Yeah.
too, right?
Yeah.
If you're hiring someone that maybe doesn't have the skill set that you need at the level that you need, like one, that's why I say hire before you're ready. Then you can hire someone with a lower skill set, right? And build them up over time,
Yeah.
because they're going to be learning alongside you and you're imparting knowledge to them. They're learning your business, they're learning the tech, and like you have that room for growth,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or if you need someone now, you need to bang it out, you got to hire someone that can come in and have that level of skill set that you need. So you're like, I always talk about time versus money. I don't think I've talked to you about the time wheel, but the time wheel essentially is this wheel that has four quadrants, TIME, and it's time, ideas, money, and energy. So time and money are directly proportionate because, right, you're either going to pay with time or you're going to pay with money.
Absolutely. Yep.
And ideas and energy, the ideas part, right? We have so many ideas, and that's the popular sits in that ideas quadrant, but so many ideas, but then, and the perfectionist sits on the other end of that in the execution box, right? So many ideas, but you need the energy to execute. And if
Yeah.
you are that popular archetype, you need someone like Lindsey, you need a perfectionist in your corner to have that execution power.
Mm.
Or like that's why those archetypes get really frustrated. Like, I want to do all the things,
Right.
but I don't know how to do all the things. And why is
Yep.
Susie Sally over there? Like, she's doing all the things. Her business is taking off. It's like, well, maybe she has a level of tech expertise that you don't have. Or
Mm-hmm.
maybe
Yeah.
she hired it out. Like, ask, you
Probably
know,
hired it out.
probably hired it out. And
Yeah.
that's what when we're talking about scaling a business without burnout,
Mm-hmm.
hiring out, I mean, when you have that good relationship, it's going to just pay you back. It's
Yeah.
going to pay you back. Time
Yeah.
versus money. It's
Right.
always time versus money.
I
And you're going to
mean,
pay with time, you're going to pay with money. And it doesn't have to break the bank, where you can get something like Accessible where it's like getting your feet wet,
right.
you know? Like,
So like rather than that's the whole point. So it's like, okay, you took that leap to have a VA, right? And they're learning with you, they're growing with you, they're doing things, and they're a little techie, so they can help you there. But you don't necessarily have the resource. It's like the rock in a hard place. You need the resources to pay for the tech person, but you need the tech person to create the resources, right? So it's
yes.
rock in a hard place. So it's like, okay, well, you've got this VA, you've got a person, you've got a support person. So then join the group to get your questions answered, to show your VA how to build these SOPs, and then manage your tech
Right.
and grow that VA into your tech person, hire a new VA. You know what I mean? Like, it's this shift, and you're
Yes.
growing their skill set and therefore building their business at the same time you're building your own.
Yeah. No, like it's and the other thing that I want to point out is you have Lindsey mentoring your VA, right? Anything that you can't answer, they have someone to go to. They can mentor them. Like that's the answer to like I need a Lindsey. It's you can create and build your own Lindsey through Accessible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that. Oh my gosh, that makes me giggle. That makes my heart happy. Because
Yes.
it is like I've heard that so many times, and it's the most flattering compliment.
But
But it
yet
also,
it's the most hurtful
I
because you
know.
want to and you can't. But this is a way for everyone to get their own Lindsey.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not an AI Lindsey, it's actually me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you again so much for being here today. And if you're listening and tech is your ugh, your Achilles heel right now,
Yeah.
like go check out Accessible, and there'll be a link in the show notes that like I'm an affiliate, just saying, because I support Lindsey and everything that she's doing, because there's so many of my clients that I couldn't support either, that they needed a tech VA. We just didn't have right time and money. They didn't have the resources to hire someone. But look, now there's a solution that they can get everything that they need, and that is accessible. So the link is going to be in the show notes, and everything that you need to just be in contact with Lindsey, all of her contact information is going to be in the show notes. And I don't know if you'll get to know her as much as I do, but she is the best person. She's friendly, like she's so lovable, and yeah, if you have any fears at all about tech or whatever, like Lindsay's your girl. Like she will love you and she will support you and she will hold your hand through the whole process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I love it. I love it so
Yes.
much. Thank you so much for having me, Kylie. I
You're
had so
very
much fun.
welcome. Me too. Okay, so again, don't forget to check out Accessible, and if this is your first episode, go back and listen to Amy's episode, and so you can kind of see where these two worlds meet. And last piece of advice, go get yourself some help. Especially
Yeah.
my popular archetypes, go get you some help. Like go book some clients, go get you some money, because it's either your time or your money. Go get some more money so that you're not spending time wasting time on that. Like go make some money, go hire yourself out some support because you
Yeah.
need it so that you don't burn out. So and with that, I'm going to close today's episode. And again, thank you, Lindsey, for being here. And I love you all. Thank you for listening, and see you again next time. Did you enjoy this episode? Want more? Here are a few ways to go deeper. Number one, discover your burnout archetype. You always hear me talking about this on each and every single episode. So get ready to crack the code on your personal burnout style. Take the quiz, go to burnoutarchetypequiz.com, and open up your mind to explore new ways on how to manage stress and conquer challenges according to your personality type. Number two, work with me. I will be your personal burnout recovery coach, because we're not just talking about change. We're talking about a seismic shift in the way that you conquer your entrepreneurial domain. So strap in and let's embark on a roller coaster ride to reclaim your life and your success. In my coaching program, we're blasting through barriers, including number one, building better boundaries. Right? We're going to stop those energy vampires and establish unbreakable boundaries to fortify your work-life equilibrium. Number two, reclaim your energy. Say goodbye to fatigue and hello to a turbo boost of vitality. Discover the secrets to replenishing your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual energy, my specific PEMS framework. And this is more than stress management, okay? We're going to wrestle stress to the ground and make it tap out. Every setback is a setup for an epic comeback. And right, you're going to become a goal-getting machine. We're going to fuse your personal and professional aspirations into a powerhouse of purpose. Say hello to a life that's not just lived, but thrived. Okay, so hold on to your hats. This is not just coaching, it's a revolution of the soul. This entrepreneurial world is not a lonely one when you've got a relentless ally like me in your corner. So it's time to crank up the volume and get ready to hustle with heart. Keep the fire alive, keep smashing those goals, and don't forget, I'm your partner in this electrifying journey. P.S. Let's flame the flames of connection. Catch up with me on the socials. You'll find my LinkedIn, my Instagram, my Facebook, and a link to my Facebook group for more exclusive content in the show notes. We'll see you there.